Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of Lunchboxx Reviews. It is the beginning of our big October spectacular. We're going to be doing one horror movie a day, every day in October. It'll be fun. We're hitting some big franchises, actually 4 franchises to be specific. There are some movies that I won't review, just refuse to, like Halloween, Season of the Witch, or whatever it was. Not going to be watching that. It has nothing to do with anything, and it's just not good. Alright, so the first movie is one of my personal favorites, Friday the 13th, Part 1. I'm going to do that whole series. It's a classic. It's good. Good beginning to the story. You're almost sympathetic for the killer if she wasn't so wacko. Starts out good setup. And something that people always make a joke about. They're like, well, Jason drowned as a kid, and then all of a sudden he's a full-grown adult. No, he drowned in 1957 in the movie universe, and the first one came out in 80. And it says it takes place in present day at the time. So, he was under the water for like 23 years. So, he grew. So, shut up about that, internet. It starts out setting up the characters, pretty basic stuff. Obligatory bikini scene. A snake to give everybody the willies. And then one of my favorite parts is they go after... Well, they try to get a guy to kill the snake. He comes over with a machete and he's just like, I don't know what to do. And they're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And everybody starts piling in. And the one girl's like, what are we doing? And they're like, there's a snake in here. And she's like, then why are we in here? And that seems like that's a joke that lasted. That's a joke that's still as funny 30-something years down the line today. They just go 8 and they're just freaking out, throwing pillows around, stuff. They're just breaking beds. Kevin Bacon elbow drops a bed for some reason. I don't know. Also, Kevin Bacon meter 1, because Kevin Bacon is in this movie. Oh, they actually kill a snake in it. This was before PETA was around, I guess. Chop it with the machete twice. Also, actual machete, so you can tell it was an independent movie. The cop in it calls the guy Co-Cheese. I thought it was funny. They have their obligatory homeless and or crazy man who's like, it's cursed! This is cursed! That is cursed! It's all a death curse! Because he says it has a death curse on it.
It's got a death curse!
But yeah, the it's cursed guy, I thought it was really funny. He just pops up out of a freaking closet at one point. Like, the cop comes, hey, we're missing our crazy guy. And then they go in and they're like doing something in the house. Well, the cabin, because they're at a camp. And they pop open a closet and he's just like, woogie woogie, it's cursed! I really like this movie, if you can't tell. There's actual good acting in some of it. I mean, for the time period that it was filmed in, and it's a first attempt at the beginning of like a horror franchise, and compared to some of those, it's really good. Like, it's not Nightmare on Elm Street #1 acting, because I think that was some of the best acting I've seen in a horror movie. Well, we'll get to that later in the month. But it was really good for the most part. I mean, there are some, like the it's cursed guy.
It's got a death curse!
Not so much, but we overlook him for the good parts. They play strip Monopoly. How bored do you have to be to try to make Monopoly sexy? I don't know. It's not a gripe with the movie. It was just that's what they picked. Like, they wouldn't have cards laying around at a camp if they already have Monopoly. Oh, there's the awkward Kevin Bacon scene. And his butt. Did not expect to see Kevin Bacon's butt. It had been a long time since I watched this movie, and it's definitely there. It's being squeezed. It was weird. I'd like to move past Kevin Bacon's butt. On to the rest of the review. Also, for anyone who's seen this, maybe you watched it recently, I know they just did a marathon on Sci-Fi Channel of all the Friday the 13th movies on the 29th. Anyone who's seen this recently, I got sidetracked, there's the Kevin Bacon love scene. Was Pamela Voorhees in it the entire time? Was she under the bed while they were doing it? I just thought that was weird. Because she's not crazy giant zombie man. She's a lady. She's a person that was just in there being creepy. Also, a message to all the kids, I guess in every horror movie, but especially this one, if it's raining and you go outside, put clothes on. They never do, and they always end up dead. That'll teach you. If you're ever at a camp, put clothes on. Don't just put a raincoat on over your underwear. Put clothes on. Sorry, had to get that out of the way. Also, one thing that I loved about this movie. First time I watched it, I didn't know I was watching Friday the 13th. I was little. I watched a lot of movies before I probably should have. But not knowing who the killer was, that was amazing for a horror movie like this. Because Freddy, you know, fedora guy with the claws. Michael Myers, jumpsuit Shatner mask. You know who that is. They don't show who the killer is until Pamela Voorhees comes up and is like, oh, I'm Mrs. Voorhees. I used to work here. You don't know. And that's something that you don't get in slasher movies. Because they all show you. That's why this one is one of my favorites, because it's just a little outside of the normal for these movies. The kills. Technically, I mean, do we count Jason? Did he really die? You see the water bubbling up in the lake at the end, and we know he is murder vengeance machine in the second part with the bag on his head and a freaking ice pick. Did he really die? Or was he just living in the woods or something? I think in the originals we can say that he died. So 11 people die in this movie. Only 11. Which is pretty tame for these movies. There was 2 camp counselors about to do it. Pamela Voorhees guts one and kills one in a way we don't get to see. And that is a year after Jason drowned. So presumably the next camp started up, and these are actually some of the guilty party for it, which I love. Because it's, you know, resolution. Jason got killed, and she's like, hey, I'm going to murder your face. And she did. There is the cook girl who never made it to the camp. This is one of the ones that disturbed me the most as a child, because they cut her throat, and and you see the skin separate and blood come down, and she just has this look of like, game over, and just bleh. And that was one of the most like visceral kills in a freaking horror movie that I'd ever seen up to that point. And yeah, this is the first time I've watched it in a decade, and I was remembering in my head a lot scarier than it actually was, because I was a child when I watched it. But yeah, Then the fourth, I'm counting the snake because it actually died. He got cut up by a machete. Kevin Bacon got an arrow through the throat post-coitus. Kevin Bacon's girl, she got a brutal axe to the face. Like, thought it was kind of intense, you know. It's really good for one of these movies. The lady who came up with Strip Monopoly got killed. Don't know how again. You don't see how she dies. She just screams, and then she gets thrown through a window later with like ropes tied around her. It doesn't really let me know anything. Captain Rape Stash, the porno mustache wearing leader of the camp. I don't know. Leader? He's the guy who's working. He's like their boss. He just got plain on a knife. Just. Then guy with plaid shirt, like who was supposed to be like the hero guy, I guess. He got a whole lot of arrows in him. He did not fare so well. And then, of course, Pamela Voorhees got her damn head cut off. Because that's what you get. You slam a girl's head in the sand and leave your machete unattended. You might get cut. She got her head cut off. That also disturbed me as a kid when Pamela Voorhees gets her head cut off, because it's like slice, and she's like a chicken with its head cut off. Could just say like a chicken, but she's like, and falls. It was yeah, I wasn't ready for that as a child. Story, I'm giving it an A- because it's a really good story to start out with. It gets a little formulaic slasher movie after that, but it was good. So A-. The atmosphere, I'm giving it an A+. She was creepy, Pamela Voorhees. The atmosphere was creepy. I really like the atmosphere of the whole movie. It gets you in that mindset. There's just like no hope for these kids. I mean, that's what you want out of a slasher movie, right? Back to the story for a second. That is one of the most satisfying endings to a slasher movie ever. The cuts her damn head off. It works. And, you know, well, you see, there's that, and then it becomes freaking terrifying because I hate water and lakes, which is weird that Friday the 13th is one of my favorite things. The little hallucination she has of Jason jumping up out of the water, because it's been said in canon that wasn't real. She dreamed that. Real Jason was 6'5" zombie machine truck of death at this time, but he was just at the bottom of the lake. Watchability, I'm going to give it a B because it's been aged a little bit by the 80s that it came from. It came from AT, so it's 30 years old. It's still watchable as a horror movie. If you find a friend that hasn't watched this, show it to them, because I don't know how they haven't watched it. Everybody's watched this movie, I feel like. It's good. It's a good movie, other than just good slasher movie. It has all the classic slasher movie pieces. Even if it invented a few, it has them. Sound design, A+. Because the music's creepy, and the atmosphere, just the ambient noises and everything. And it has the perfect pan hitting head noise ever. When she's in a closet holding a pan, and Pamela Voorhees is just like, I see you. Opens up the door, goes at her, and she's just like, BONG! And it's just perfect. And it made me laugh really hard. So sound gets an A+. Watchability's a B. The tone of the movie gets an A because it's creepy. It is damn creepy. It does a really good job of freaking you out. And you have no idea who the killer is. I mean, you know now, but if you're watching this and didn't know what Friday the 13th was, you wouldn't know who the killer was. It doesn't tell you. You're like, oh, is it the kid? No, it's his mom. Old Pamela Voorhees. Overall, I'm going to grade this movie an A, which is watch it. Watch it now. It's good. It's freaking October. Watch it. It definitely gets my seal of approval. So, for all of us here at All of Us Productions, thank you for watching. This is, as I said, this is only part 1 of our October Horror Spectacular. Come back tomorrow where we'll have Friday the 13th, part 2.